good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. This is Anne Phey, Leadership Coach, and we're with Life Coach University 365 Paid Forward. So if you find any of these sessions useful, please share the info and help somebody along the way, pay it forward in any way that you want to, so as to make the world a better place. So today on Leadership Lessons from the Boss from Hell to Heaven, we're going to round up this leadership framework that I've been talking about over the last 30 days. So today it's a grand finale. So thank you for joining me. I'm so excited to have you guys back. And today we're going to talk about what is this whole leadership framework about and why is it so important? So today I was chatting with a coach and she was saying, hey, every coach talks about mindset shift. Every coach talks about creating highest potential for somebody. So what makes a coach different one from the other? What makes a leader different, from one another? I think, well, a bit of it is really about the experience that we've been through that helps us to evolve as a person. The other part is really about what are the areas of strengths that we have that we can bring to the table. And over the last 30 days, I've basically been sharing real life experiences and also coming from a more structured approach. So, as leaders, where do we begin to find what kind of leader we are and what kind of teams do we want to lead? And you can go through your experiences and you can also learn to be one, which is the beautiful part about being in a community where we share, right? So, as part of the sharing, let me just go through what we have talked about. Number one, in order for us to be leaders, is to firstly recognize that we need to come from a space from within ourselves rather than a job title. So leadership is a privilege, not an entitlement. And if we want to be a leader, it's really about how can we empower others. So that is the starting point. Now, when we look at being a leader, therefore, is to look into the direction of how and where we're going to lead the team, right? So the leader has to lead. So first we lead by creating the vision and the values of the team. So vision is where we want to go. And as mentioned, it's not just about us leading the way and then like waiting for everyone to follow. These days, we want to be very inclusive. So involve the team. Where do you see us going as a team? Where do you see our division, our company going? Let's agree on a vision and how it distills down to the personal purpose, right? So that is part of leadership. So besides that, it's about the values. What are the things that are important to us? And how does that translate into the behavior that we want to see in the team? So the story about the values is, do you value open communication, trust, and being direct and supporting one another and coming together as a team? So once you have those values and what you want to see, meaning that instead of sending emails, I want to pick up the phone or I want to just have a chat and work things out. That is one behavior of open communication. So we define what are the behaviors, and then that becomes the way that we model and lead the team. Now, the other part about leadership we talked about was having a growth versus a fixed mindset, and all the other mindsets that are positive, focused on the individual and the team, so that we can allow the team to flourish and blossom. And we ourselves as leaders need to take on the professional development too. So as part of that development is, how do we become better as a leader and as a team? And the last part of the leadership that we talked about was about reward and recognition, because people do want to be recognized for the efforts that they put in. And the reward could be as simple as thank you, I appreciate you, maybe the employee of the month or the best team contributor. Create that system so that this becomes the way and the style of your leadership. Now, the second part, the second big bubble that we looked at was skill set. So it is about the technical skills that make us who we are. And I talked about how we are often promoted because of our technical skills, but how about the soft skills? So such things as having a coaching mindset. How about, how do we work with the teams? How do we be able to recognize all the different personalities and adapt? So these soft skills are part and parcel of our skill set. Now, then the very important part of developing our skill set is the ability to receive feedback and creating feed forward. So feed forward is about being able to say, hey, how can I improve this area? And everybody gives you a suggestion on how you can improve. And that really is allowing us to move forward in a positive way rather than pointing the finger and blaming. So feed forward is a very important part that we need to build into our skill set as leaders and also with the team. So don't wait for the annual evaluation or even the half yearly checkpoint. You don't get into a room for a checkpoint to get feedback. Feedback is a daily affair. Hey, tell me, how could I have done that better? Share with me your ideas. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? Create that system where people are open to share, and that's how we get better day by day, not after a year like, oh, I should have done this and that. So feed forward is important. And the next part about skill set is benchmarking. How do we know how we fare as a leader or an individual? So definitely go and get statistics about your trade. So for example, how does the industry measure productivity? How do they measure return on investments? How do they measure the amount of waiting time a customer hangs on the phone while waiting for someone to address them? So look at industry benchmarks, look at the baseline of where we are, and look at how we can improve that. And by having a solid goal that is realistic, we all move towards the goal. So for example, if we want to triple our sales, we don't just suddenly think of a number overnight, but it has to have some basis of how the economy is doing, what are our competitors doing differently. And these benchmarks could be hard matrix number. It could also be soft ones, such as feedback from customers. So you have the net promoter score. You also have the open-ended questions where clients come back and say, hey, I really loved working with your team because I knew that they gave me individual attention and really listened to my concerns and addressed them. So these are the softer feedback that you want to kind of like benchmark, like how many positive responses. And if clients were commenting about an area that we didn't do well in, then how do we benchmark to move it forward, right? So this provides the skill set. Now, if you had the right leadership and the skill set, the intersection point of that is you build an excellent team, because as a team, you know how you're moving forward, you have the benchmarks, and you build up the skill set because you know that you're going to develop yourself and the individual. So the mindset development and the skill set development comes together. And in terms of the reward and recognition, that's linked back to the feedback as well. So there are counterpoints across leadership and skill set, and that's why if we have both leadership and skill set developed, we'll be developing excellence in our team, that we get better and better across the months and the year. Now, then we also talked about culture. What is this big bubble called culture, right? We say that culture is the way we do things here. So how do you want to be seen as the way we do things here? Are we, are we a very energetic, high performance team, or are we a go with the flow team? Because it depends on what kind of culture you want to build. So we talk about the advocacy culture where you're really innovating all the time. We also talk about the process oriented kind of culture. So how do we know what kind of culture we're in and take the positive sides of the different types and merge it into our culture? Now, in developing this culture, what is really important is trust and open communication, because that is the foundation. Because without trust and open communication, it's almost impossible to work together. Today, I was coaching a professional, and she said that she doesn't trust anyone at work. And because there is no trust, because she's been thrown under the bus before, it becomes a very hostile environment where everyone is second guessing every word that is spoken. Like, were you trying to hint something to me? Are you trying to get me into trouble? Or, I better guard myself. I'm not going to say so much. So when you don't have that openness, it's really hard to work together as a team. So if you come from an environment that's been toxic, then it takes courage to turn it around. So especially if we have been in that kind of environment, it's really, how do we build it? Um, it really starts from the top, right? And being a role model to say that, okay, whatever that has happened, apologize, and you got to demonstrate it until people trust you again. And it takes time to build trust, but it just takes moments where you lose it. So take courage, don't be disappointed. If you're trying to shift it, it really takes demonstration of that until people believe in you again. So wherever we are, at whatever point we are, is to have the open communication. If things are not right, have it out in the open, discuss it, don't hide it. Because in fact, these days, people want to be in the know. The last thing most employees want it to be the last one to know what's happening in the company. But keeping employees in the know allows them to know that my boss trusts me enough to tell me what's going on, right? And how can we solve the problem together as a team? When you open it up like this, it demonstrates your vulnerability, and people do appreciate, and they will chip in and help out, because it is human nature to help others. It's against human nature to be antagonistic, to quarrel, and to put up defenses. So break those walls down, right? And when I talk about breaking walls down, we talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So you can go read up on whatever's happening in the DEI movements. But to me, breaking down the walls just means respecting somebody and seeing somebody in the light of who they are. So when we see someone in the light of who they are, we appreciate however way they were brought up, their ethnic, cultural, eating behaviors, communication styles, and all that. And we build a bridge across the team members and between us and others by respecting, by asking, reading up, and learning, and being sensitive also to terms and language and the way that maybe certain terms have been um, taught to us as kids, that we have either taken on consciously or subconsciously, that words do carry meanings, and the way we communicate is different. So some are more direct, some are more indirect in different cultural settings. And so just to have that level of sensitivity, because that goes hand in hand with an open communication. So what someone is willing to say is very different degrees of openness with others, but we all start somewhere. And I do trust in the basic human nature that even though people tell me, and my workplace is not my family, I'm not going to share my whole life story, because I don't share it with people. You never know what they're going to do. And that comes down to trust, right? So we all start somewhere. And I don't think, if someone betrays our vulnerability and our stories, then it really tells about the person's character. But I rather err on the good side, to be able to reach out to someone who can open up to me and know that they can share anything with me, because I'm there for them, right? So that's the kind of leader that we aspire to be. And when we role model that, others will follow. And that brings to mind responsibility and accountability, because as leaders, we hold responsibilities for the team, and the results, right? So many, especially in the middle management, or even if you're the GM of a Singapore office, you're also beholden to the global office somehow along the hierarchy. Even if you're the CEO, you're beholden to the shareholders. So there are, how do you say, business targets and goals that we want to go after. But there is also the human side of things. So we're always in that balance of making sure that we're able to meet the objectives and also to allow the team to grow and to morph and to see how do we manage it when sometimes it is in conflict and so on. So one key thing is to know what we are accountable for. And it's never easy being in a management position because you are accountable for business results and you are also accountable for the team. Um, when there are times where there are conflict, is definitely to do reach out to mentors and coaches so that you can be able to discuss your options. And also, uh, accountability also comes with the responsibility. So I just want to stress that we are responsible for lives and we are responsible for people. And it is our priority as leader to empower so that everyone can grow. And there are times when maybe uh, the growth or the values or the work is not aligned to what needs to be driven and tough decisions need to be made. I would suggest that as leaders that uh, we need to open that up for discussion and sharing. So it will come from a space of allowing the team member to do as much as he or she can within that capacity. And if they have done that, then if there isn't a matchup, is to let them know so that they can also pursue something that is more within their capacity. And who knows, they might be in a better place with a different environment. Because how do you say, it takes different personalities, skills, and work environment to make a good match, right? Um, so accountability and responsibility comes together, and that's part of building the culture too, so that we can not just from the leader side, but also as team members be accountable to one another so that the teamwork can take place, so that the collaboration can be smooth. Because if we are not accountable to one another, then we're working in silos. And if we don't talk about being responsible, then somebody else has to cover your responsibility. And then the weightage and the work put in versus the input into the work versus the output and the results will not be balanced. So it's something that we need to be aware of so that we can build that personal responsibility in each team member. So that's where um, sometimes coaching is very helpful at this point where the team members are having stuck issues, procrastination, or maybe just not able to get over some hurdles. Work through a coach so that they can unpack what are the blind spots and what's going on, and they can, through a very systematic model, work through week by week to make progress until it becomes a habit, right? And the other piece about culture is also being solutions focused versus problem, because when we are focused on the solutions rather than finding fault and focusing on the problem, we open up the creativity and the innovative side of the team, and also opens up the potential for teamwork to brainstorm on what we can do better. So it doesn't mean that we stick our head in the ground and don't look at the problem when I say that, but it's really to see the problem as what it is, diagnose the root cause issue, what's causing it, what can we learn from it, but move on to the solution so that we can create the possibility of overcoming the obstacle and reaching towards attaining our goals. So when we look at having the right culture and the skill set, what you end up with is a very productive team. Because if you have all the skill set in the world, but you don't have that open communication, you don't have accountability and responsibility, your skill set's not going to be displayed. It's not going to achieve the results, right? You can focus on the problem and you have the skill set, but you're not going to do anything. So culture and skill set creates productivity because you have the right attitude and approach to use your skill set to solve things. So earlier we talked about leadership and skill set gives you the excellence. Skill set and culture gives you the productivity. And so by having these three, you are great at what you do. You produce more output than what you put in because everyone comes together as a team. And the last part is culture and leadership comes together, and that's where you build loyalty. And this is that soft part about teams, that it is so hard to find loyalty because we think that employees can be easily lured by higher pay, better environment, and better benefits, perks, and all that. But actually, if we have a great culture and great leadership, people will think twice before leaving, because what do we come to work? And sometimes coming to work is not about, oh, I want to achieve my sales target. It's actually beyond that, about the people. We want to wake up and want to go to the office and see someone that I really enjoy working with. Um, I want to have a boss that supports my ambition, that knows and trusts that I will get my job done rather than someone breathing down my neck and micromanaging me. And I want a boss that I can respect and trust. And I want team members not to second guess me, because we know that when we work on something, we are supporting one another. And I know that if I can't get this piece of job done, somebody else will step in and help me. How how would anyone want to leave if they know that they have a great culture of team collaboration, of people that only want the best for them? Well, of course, you say, and that's ideal. We live in a real world. Does this really exist? I say yes, because we can make it a possibility. Remember, you and I, we are leaders, and leaders clear the path. Leaders set the agenda, and leaders can pull the team together. So it may be ideal, but it is real and it is possible. And when you have leadership, excellence, skill set, productivity, culture, and now loyalty, we actually have people who are emotionally connected, because that it is that emotional connection that makes people stay and want to work together and want to put in their best effort. So in the boat analogy that I had, then people will come in and do their best and not be sinking the boat by complaining and backstabbing. And neither would people be like totally just out there doing their own thing. But we can come together as a team and move the boat forward. So with that, that is what I've shared over this past 31 days on leadership lessons, that it is possible to move from being a boss from hell to heaven. So you take it one day at a time, and you make changes one step at a time. And as you make that one step, make it into a habit. Open it up for sharing with the team and say, team, I want to become a better leader. I want to support you. I want to allow our team and you as an individual grow. What do you think is the most important thing for us? Have that discussion, list it down, and remember, trust and open communication, and say, and also having the accountability and responsibility, because what we say we set out to do, we must do, right? And we don't have to do it alone. And I'm very sure if we open it up to the team and show them our genuine intention and why we want to do it, then I'm very sure the team will respond accordingly. Sometimes it just takes a little bit more to crack certain hard nuts or to, how do you say, change the image of how people have seen us from the past. It may take time, but I assure you it can be done because I have done it. And if you need any help, you can certainly reach out to people around you. And I'm available on social media on LinkedIn and Facebook. Check out Anne Phey and drop in your questions or comments. Let me know how you're doing with all the um, sharing that we've done over the last few days. We will be here to support you as we create this pay it forward community. And with Life Coach University, they have a lot of great coaches in different aspects as well. And with Leadership Coaching School, where I train and certify coaches for International Coaching Federation, I've got a lot of great coaches as well. Um, and I've got coaches from human resource, from different industry, from tech to pharmacy to advertising to even retail, FMCG, and wholesale and manufacturing. So we've got lots of people with great hearts to serve the community. So don't be afraid to reach out for support and help. So I'm gonna pause here and look at any questions or comments from our audience. Wow, lots of awesome chats. Thank you. Thank you for all your positive encouragement. Uh, One comment here. Last week, I met a director of a company that is a world-recognized global company. I asked him if he liked his work. His answer was, it was very well paid. Got to travel a lot, but I've worked there for over 20 years now, and there's no one there I can say is a friend. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. It is true. I think because we have been so drilled into um, moving our career and being promoted and going after titles, being promoted up the ranks and getting a higher pay and better recognition, expanding our job portfolio. Um, that we're promoted because we either demonstrate results, we're in the right place at the right time sometimes, or we have demonstrated the skills to move forward. But a lot of times, even from great companies that I worked with, the leadership development is really about um, skills, and definitely moving from a technical to a senior management. We are also taught a little bit of people and communication skills. But what I found lacking in leadership development is really the extended leadership skills that I talked about. Like, how do you build a great culture? How do you have that trust and open communication? So I think over the years, I've seen a lot of top executives who hit a certain point, and it's either number one, they are really burnt out because they're working day and night, and because they're so focused on driving results that they've forgotten about themselves. And along the way, some of the leaders also forget about the team, and it's really after um, how do we get more and more productive, how do we get more and more sales, and how do we hit the profit margin. And because the time hasn't been spent on building the team, so you don't really have a team that backs you up, that you can call friends. And also across the peers, likewise the collaboration, it's something that we haven't been taught, and we kind of like stumble into it, right? And depending on how the peers are working, sometimes there's a lot of competition because multiple people are vying for that top position. So if you're promoted and somebody is not, sometimes they're unhappy, and there's backstabbing, a lot of things that goes on that makes the situation as what you have described, that they're no friends because everyone's just competing and watching their back. And And I think we have a chance to change that. So if your friend is gonna move or stay there or make a move, encourage him to make the change bit by bit. And if he's really at a, a top position, he has the opportunity to make the change. Um, like that was what I did. I made the change in my team. Well, I couldn't influence everybody. I made the change in my team. And sometimes, if the environment is really very toxic, and that's something that we can't influence beyond our team, um, I say this, even though I say that it is possible to change, but I am also realistic that sometimes if it takes a lot more than an individual, and if you don't have other people in the company that's willing to shift and create a better environment for the team, then maybe it is also time to move on somewhere where you can either start afresh or be able to create what you want. So um, the most important thing is to take care of ourselves as leaders. Sometimes we've also have leaders who take care so much of the team that we forget to take care of ourselves. And um, you're on a flight and they say if there's turbulence, put on the oxygen mask first. And it is not selfish to do that, because if you can put on the oxygen mask, then you can help others. But if we don't take care of ourselves, we're just going to go down. Um, and so I think that that is the responsibility, right, to ourselves, so that we can also help others. So, and I think you are your this director. You can be a friend to him or her, and to help him to see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you for that. Another comment is about how does a leader create a culture that works for the older generation and also the younger generation. In the paper mill factory, there's lots of older staff who are engineers and have lots of experience. They want a certain work environment. Then there's the younger apprentices that come into the factory that want a different work culture. The age groups division is clear, especially at break and lunchtime where the ages eat separately. Yeah, I guess that's generation gap. um I haven't worked in a paper mill factory before, but from what I'm hearing is that um the older staff have, okay, so I think this is the difference in thinking of the different generations. And again, I am generalizing without knowing the real situation. The older leaders and staff and team members, um I think in the past it was really about putting down the hard work and getting to where you need to be. And there's a lot of learning and blood and sweat and tears to get to where they are. So there's a lot of emphasis on excellence and quality. And so when they get to a position of seniority, they do treasure and take a lot of pride in what they have achieved. And the younger generation, because of the way that they have grown up with instant gratification and being digital natives, their path is a lot faster, and they don't take no for an answer because they know that there are always alternatives. And as a younger generation, they learn to think really fast on their feet. And so firstly, the pace is different. So they want to learn, but they want to learn in a much faster way. And truly, technology has brought about learning in an accelerated pace. So in some sense, we need to share with the older generation the way that the younger ones are thinking, so that they can allow the younger ones to learn in the way that they enjoy, and how they can create a bit more of a flexible and a participative culture to be able to be more transparent in sharing about what's happening at the workplace. Because the young ones want to feel the pulse of the company. They want to have the energy. They want to have a related purpose that they can pin on, and that gets them motivated. And the younger ones can also learn about how the older engineers have really learned the hard way, and how do they then be able to lean on their experience to learn from them word of mouth, and also to understand how structure and process and development takes place. So it takes a lot um, to help them to appreciate. So some of the ways we can do is to really start doing buddy systems so that they can pair up and exchange and form some friendships. And we could also do group sharing where, you know, they can talk about, hey, what's possible in if they were in each other's shoes. So that will help to break the ice and to help them to really mingle. um, if you were to move the two groups, probably is a little bit stuck, but start with maybe pairing and maybe getting the leaders of each group to sit down and say, hey, how could we work better together, or just, you know, get into a more social occasion and maybe create a project that both can work on together. Yeah. All right. um so someone's saying the biggest company in our town announced foreclosure in 2 years. They make up 40% of the town's family income. Lots of the small local business rely on this company's contracts. One of the pressures on the line managers is to lead the staff members to advance and fast track their education so that when the company closes, the staff are better qualified to be hired elsewhere. The majority of the staff in the factory have not completed higher education. They walked into the job from high school or college. One of the line managers, a big strong man, cried openly about the guilt of having to let go of the staff he has worked with for generations. Wow, thank you for sharing that. Actually, when I spent time in some of the cities, um, actually this is something that's happening across many states, because more and more companies are becoming global. And because of the push on productivity and profit, um, there is this mindset on consumers to want to get new designs faster and more cheaply produced. So a lot of traditional businesses that focuses on handicrafts, traditional way of doing things, um, has basically lost in the competition, and therefore not able to sustain, because the demand for the cheaper, less well made, but you know, quick turnaround businesses have basically taken on most of the demand, and therefore this demand and supply doesn't match. And that's why a lot of the traditional businesses are closing, from um, family businesses to pottery, even like we saw in many of the movies, bookstores and all that, they're all taken over by the huge conglomerates. So this is a trend that's happening across the world, but there is also opportunities for the smaller companies to innovate. Because firstly, number one, things are available online these days. So it's about carving out your niche as a business to see how you can compete online, and to create a more premium positioning, so that your cost can be factored into the pricing, and therefore create a different cult following. So creating the demand to help the business survive. So that's one area that we can look into to support the businesses so that they can change and keep the business going, so they can continue to hire the people in the group, in the company. So I'm approaching it from the business point of view. The second part is I want to kind of like just really acknowledge that it's difficult, as if we're a leader in this kind of business, when things don't work out, that you really have to let people go. It's never easy, because if the company has tried everything and it comes to that point, it's it's really how do you say, painful, and heart-wrenching. And I'm not surprised that even a strong man cries, because I think that's what makes him a leader, because he has a heart for his people. And he, as what you have shared, has been trying to get everyone to get better qualified so they can find jobs outside. I think he's really gone beyond what his job job title and description has done to help save the people, right? So if if we are leaders in a position, let's try to get the business to innovate so that they can continue to run the business and earn and manage the staff. The other things are also look out for fundings and investors, because some of the governments do provide funding for traditional or small medium enterprises to help tide them over. And the third one is um, yeah, so investors too, right? Of course, these days there's a lot of companies that's going for more of the Internet of Things and tech kind of startups, and they are able to get like angel investors and all that. But there would be investors if we can restructure the business strategy. But definitely as leaders, help the team to look at alternative careers if that's really the point that we're at. And 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 if you really know this line manager who's helping the team, please give him a hug for me and tell him he's doing a great job. Supporting his team. I'm sure they treasure him, and I'm very sure wherever he goes, they want to work for him again. And that is loyalty, right? And that is the kind of leadership that he builds, because he has built the open trust communication. He has the accountability and responsibility for the team, and he probably has a vision. While the vision of the company is not quite where it needs to be, he's providing that for the team. So bravo on all fronts, and I wish him and the team well, and hope they find their dream job. And it is that skill set, right, that is so essential, because for the company to do well and also for the team to do well is to really start on the skill set as soon as we can, so that they are able to develop both the horizontal as well as the vertical skills, as I mentioned, as a T-shaped professional, so that they can have more options. Another comment is, growing up, the emphasis was to finish college and university to get a job. Is that still true for the generation now? Yes, that's pretty traditional, that we want to go to college and university to get a job. And that's the way that education has created. I would say this dates back to the 1970s, 60s, when they started the Industrial Revolution. So they needed a lot of people to be educated so they could fill up the jobs, from the factories to the offices and eventually to the huge conglomerates. So that's why there was this emphasis in being educated. But is that really necessary now? That's a good question. I see that there are a lot of people who have not had college and university education that have become brilliant entrepreneurs, right? And you have all these famous names that made it, right? And you also have a lot of them who, even with education, couldn't get jobs, but yet they became the greatest entrepreneurs. So what is really making the difference? I think education is important because it teaches us skills. So for example, in leadership development, I do talk about how do we understand finance, marketing, um, understanding technology as it is today, and distribution channels, legal stuff and all. It's good to have that overview. And I think in that sense, education is important. But what is more important is our mindset. Firstly, our mindset of growth. and the confidence in ourselves, right? And having that vision. So everything that I talked about on leadership actually applies to us, not just in the corporate or team environment, it applies to us personally. So what is the vision that you want in your life? So a lot of times we follow the trend and we go into university, and sometimes the students pick a subject because either the parents picked it or is the hot thing in the industry, or their friends are all going for that course, so they follow along. But what's really important for us as individuals to lead our own lives is to have a vision of where we want to be. If we don't know, then go and explore and go take a part-time job, go and work somewhere, or if you're someone who is into meditation, or get a coach, go figure out what is it that you want in your life. And if you're not sure, you have a couple of options, go try out all those options. So one is having that vision and direction. The second thing is definitely work on your skill set. So whether is it going to be college, university, or maybe a polytechnic where you're honing more technical skills, or maybe being an apprentice, um, that's going to help you to get along the path that you want. And also, it is about our mindset. So, our mindset of knowing where we want to be, how can we grow, where are our blind spots, where are the obstacles, and how can we overcome it. And then, working with people who are supportive of us. So join a community, um, join an association, or maybe have a bunch of people that you surround yourself with that are positive and supporting us to go in the direction or the profession that you want to grow in. Because with that, it gives you the right environment, the network, the know-how that you can glean from the members within that association or community. So, so I would say that having some college and university is good, but if you don't have that, then go after what ignites you, what fuels your passion. Um, but more importantly, whichever direction you choose to look at developing the T, right? The T, just to quickly recap, is the depth is knowing something so deeply that people will hire you because you know that very well, and therefore you're an expert in that area. So whether it's a technical skill, whether it's a college skill, something that you learn in a university. I mean, some professions and jobs um, require university, right? So if you want to be a doctor, I don't think there's any way out. Being a doctor, a dentist, a vet, or an accountant, you still have to learn that, right? But then the other piece that we want to learn is the horizontal skill set, which is knowing about something that's across industry that you could apply anywhere. So for example, do you want to learn more about communication? You want to learn sales, or you want to learn marketing? These are very horizontal skills, right? So in the case that one of our audience has brought up, where the line manager was trying to get everyone an alternative job by skilling them up. I think it's because they have been in that role for a long time, and they probably didn't develop any other skills. So it is important for us to be versatile and flexible, so that if anything were to happen, we know that number one, we continually learn to grow, because it is so important to have lifelong learning. So you pick up skills along the way, so that you wouldn't be in a situation where the skill is already backdated and is not transferable. And of course, the T-shaped professional also means that you can be really great at something, but you can also shift and move around. And that is also a formula for you to move ahead. So for example, you look at some serial entrepreneurs, how do they create so many different businesses? and they don't even have any background. They can open up a restaurant one day, they can open up an education institute another day, and the third day they create some entertainment company. So because they have that horizontal mindset, horizontal skill, which is being able to sell the idea, being able to get investors, and that they're able to hire the right people. And that is that business savvy that is very horizontal. Yeah. So I do encourage anyone to really think about what do you want to become, what what strikes your interest, and develop along those ways, and remember to continue to grow and learn. So whether it is a college or university, I think what matters these days is lifelong learning, being able to adapt. Yeah, I hope I answered your question. So I think these days, it's you. I mean, the younger ones I see are creating startups, and they're making it. They're able to get investments, and they're able to sell off their companies, and they're not always graduates from university, but what they have is an entrepreneurial mindset, and they have courage to step out and do something different. So beyond that technical training is, let's train our mindset. Let's train ourselves so that we can become confident, we can understand what is our makeup and what kind of personality we are, and to build on our strength, and also to stretch out and say, hey, maybe I don't have the courage. How do I build that courage? Can I lean on someone to emulate so that I can have the courage to do things? Or maybe I have the courage, but I don't know, how to calculate all the financial stuff. Then find a partner who does, because these days it is really about coming together with people of different skills and to make it work together. Yeah. So I think we've got great questions today, and lots of wonderful comments and sharing. So I think I'm really encouraged because whatever that you share is really resonating. And just one final note about leadership, and that's why I have this picture in my background, is that whatever the situation is, even if in this case it's like in a winter when there's snow, and you think that even if the environment is not bright and sunny, there is beauty in the company, the workplace, or the community that we're in. If we learn to see the beauty in that situation, and snowflakes are beautiful, and it is a nice environment, and you don't perspire, look at the positive side of things, and also know that seasons change and it will get better. And more importantly, as leaders, we reflect back, which is that mirror behind. We reflect back to others what is their strength and what are they missing, so that they can become to be a better person. And that's how, as leaders, we empower others by being that light in the midst of all that. Um, but first, let's work on ourselves. Let's nourish ourselves as leaders and grow. And by way of that, have the heart, and we will be able to empower others. So with that, it's leadership lessons over 31 days, creating productivity, empowerment, loyalty, and truly emotional engagement, so that we can really build a high performance team, and more importantly, to make lives count. So with that, leadership lessons from the boss from hell to heaven. Thank you for joining this 31 days of wonderful 365 paid forward with Life Coach University. So I'm signing off, and stay tuned because we've got more coaches from the Paid Forward University to share with you all their special insights and wonderful words. So keep in touch. I'm Anne Phey, leadership coach. I'll see you around. Bye.